What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Night Owls video. And today we are going to break down some of the huge recruits that FAU has just landed. One of them being today, one of the best recruits and commits that FAU has ever got in the history of the program, the highest in the 2026 class. We're also going to talk a little bit about this basketball team. How good are they going to be? What are the expectations in the basketball team? Because they are coming off 3 straight postseason tournament appearances, 2 of them being in March Madness, 1 of them being in the NIT. Can they replicate that again for a 4th straight year? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the FAU versus FIU rivalry and take a quick look at this FIU team. So strap in, buckle up, because we're going to talk some FAU right here on the Night Owls. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot. This is your number one spot for FAU podcast daily videos breaking down FAU. Let's start, though, with the huge commit in football that FAU landed today. Elijah West from Tate High School. This is a huge recruit, and I really want to emphasize how big of a get this is for FAU. This is a guy who's ranked within the top 1,000 on the 24/7 Sports composite rankings, meaning that he is a top 950 player, actually 941 in the nation, 132nd best receiver, and a top 110 player in the state of Florida. Now, this isn't a guy that FAU is just getting in their backyard. This is a guy who lives all the way up northwest in the state. It's about a 9-hour drive from Boca, which is where Tate is. And he's coming all the way down to FAU. And something that is so huge about landing this guy is look at the other offers he's got. Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Michigan State. He could have played in the SEC or Big Ten, and he chose to come to FAU to make a difference. He also had offers at Kansas State, Minnesota, Tulane. And Tulane is a team who's in our conference, who's probably, going to give him a little more NIL, but he chose FAU over them. UCF and USF. UCF being a team who's first off closer to him geography wise and also is in a Power 4 conference. USF, top 25 team in the country. They're also closer to him geographically, but he's coming to FAU, and that's a huge get for the Owls. Now, let's talk a little bit about his game. So Elijah is obviously, first off, he's a receiver. He's 6'2", 185, and he's a two-sport athlete. So he's not just a football player. He also performs his talents on the track and field team, which really helps him with his speed. And he has an 11:37 100 time, I believe it is. Now, if we talk a little bit about how he did in football last season, he had 42 catches and 584 yards and 10 touchdowns in 10 games. So he's averaging 1 touchdown each game and only 4.2 catches each game. So that means 25% of his catches are touchdowns. So he is a guy who's a red zone threat. He's going to get open in the red zone. And that's kind of what FAU needs, because right now, Asad Wasim, I'd say he's separating himself as the number one red zone target. But you need guys who can get open when you're in other teams' territories so that we could score points. And this is going to be great for Kitley's air raid offense. Dom Henry, FAU's wide receiver. He's been here at FAU for a couple of years. He stated it's a dream for every receiver to come to this air raid offense. And I think that Elijah is seeing that, because obviously it's pass first, and Elijah's going to get playing time in year one with a pass first offense. Huge get for the Owls. he was offered, he had an official visit to Arkansas. They liked him so much that he went on an official visit in June, and he said, "No, I like FAU more." Obviously, an SEC team's going to offer him more NIL money, but he is coming here to make a change and to get back to the conference championships that FAU has had. A huge get for FAU. I know I've said that a lot, but this is a guy who's going to play in the slot. He's super speedy. He's athletic. Obviously, he can create separation. And according to scouts, he has a very quick first step, according to Andrew Ivins, 24/7 Sports. And we're all familiar with Andrew Ivins, obviously a former FAU reporter, now doing 24/7 Sports. And he thinks he's very highly of Elijah. So, Coach Kittley, great job, great get. Coach McCarthy, new wide receiver coach, great job there too. I know Elijah must love Coach McCarthy. And when you look at these FAU receivers, he's going to get a chance to develop under Easton Messer, Assad Wasim, Dom Henry, Jay Sean Platt, assuming that those guys stay. And that's also going to be huge because he might not start year one, but he'll be able to develop. He'll definitely get playing time. A huge get. And Jade Carter was the guy last year in the wide receiver room that we got. And this year, it's Elijah West. So, if you have any thoughts on Elijah, anything you want to add about him as a player or overall, leave that down below in the comment section. We love to hear your thoughts. Let's talk about the other commit that FAU landed. Now, I know this was a bit ago, but Vincent Neubauer. He is coming in from Germany, and he's committed to Coach John Jacobs and the FAU basketball program. This is such a big get. He's 7'1". Obviously, Coach Jacobs likes those 7-footers. And, in the front court, FAU is going to have size. And I think that's really huge. Last year, it was Montas Kokonakis, who, yes, he was hurt, but still Montas Volkaitis, also from Lithuania. He was that 7-footer who was getting the ball in the paint, who was, being able to score those key points for the Owls inside the paint and be able to help the Owls win games. And something about Montas that I really liked is the ability that he was able to create contact and get to the charity stripe and shoot free throws. And if this is a guy who Coach Jacobs is getting in Vincent Neubauer, who can do the same, that's going to give FAU so many more points. Montas obviously had a lot to improve on. His very sloppy footwork. And he left. He transferred to Texas. I think he has a potential to be very good at Texas. He was just a freshman last year, which is really crazy to think about. But this is a guy who Coach Jacobs really likes. He likes international guys. He was a head coach overseas, and he likes getting the talent internationally. So shout out to Coach Jacobs on that huge get. Now let's talk a little bit about the roster. So FAU lost a bunch of guys to the portal. I think the biggest loss overall has to be Montas because he was a freshman. So that's 3 years of a guy you're losing. But Leland Walker, he was the guy who was the best playmaker on the team. He was the point guard, took the ball past half court, had great vision on the court. He really was able to distribute the ball to some key playmakers. And I think that's huge. Trey Carroll, what he meant to this program was huge. He was here in the final 4 days, and he just decided to stay. He went to Xavier. I thought that he was a little bit sloppy, especially from the perimeter, but again, a big loss. But I also don't think these are as big losses as people are saying. Ball Miller, he went to Cincinnati. All these guys besides Leland Walker are going to high-power schools. Caleb Glenn went to Michigan State. I was expecting them to do great things. But the thing about FAU is these guys, they're all leaving after 1 year. So they're using FAU as a pit stop to be able to show their talents and get more money elsewhere. And that's why I think the one transfer rule should be permanent. We should make one transfer total, because what's the point of coming here for 1 year, making the NIT, and leaving when our coaching staff really developed you for that year. But on the negative side, there's still a lot of positives. Let's look at what FAU brought in. Isaiah Elholm, this is a guy who, as a prospect, was a high-end 4-star recruit. He's very physically strong. He's a tough wing. And he is able to score from the mid-range. That's his key. He's going to pull up and have those jumpers from 27 feet. He's 6'5". He has good length. Very strong body too, and that's huge. He has very good instincts, and if you watch him, the way that he scores around the rim is he's able to avoid defenders through contact. So he also causes a lot of fouls too. He has very good footwork. He can get to the hoop, make a spin move, pull up from the right or left block, and make shots. And he's going to be a guy who also is going to pull up from the elbow. You're going to see him score a majority of his points inside the free throw line or just from the mid-range. And he's really battled through injuries. So we have to hope he stays healthy because he does like to take contact. Coach is definitely working on him not taking too much contact. But again, huge get for the Owls. Devin Williams, he comes in from UCLA. He was a 4-star as a transfer. 81st nationally, and he had a lot of offers. Entered the transfer portal. Again, a guy who's 6'10". We just need to make sure that he's able to be one of those guys at the center position who wants the ball. Montas, the thing about last year, and especially the front court, no one wanted to take the last shot. And we need a center who's going to want to, put his back to the hoop, catch the ball on a lob, and take it himself to the rim. That's what FAU needs. And if you asked me last year, one guy to take a shot, no one wanted the ball at the last minute. And FAU lost a bunch of one-possession games because of that. Maxime Logue comes in from Oregon State. Again, a big guy in the front court. Cannon Carl, huge get from Indiana. These guys, they're guys who didn't get much playing time at Indiana and UCLA and Oregon State. And something I noticed is they're all from out west besides Indiana. But the fact that Coach went and got an Oregon State, UCLA, and USC guy is huge. But something that I notice about all these guys is they're not guys who are 20-point per game scorers. Ken Evans last year, he comes in from Jackson State, yeah, and had 18 points per game. Player of the year in his conference. Leland Walker comes over from Eastern Kentucky, 16 points a game. First team all conference. And, you have guys. Caleb Glenn was a 5-star recruit coming in from Louisville. Like, these are guys who are selfish, but they didn't gel together. And now you have a bunch of guys who are from bigger programs, yes, but they know how to be team players. They're all going to create chemistry and gel. I don't think they're going to leave because I think Coach Jake has made that a huge emphasis. If we're going to want to get you, you have to stay here. So how good is this basketball team going to be? I want to tell you this. I'm not mad at the Bobby Miller loss. I think people are way overreacting to that. Yes, he could have went to the draft. Yes, he was a huge guy for us. But his efficiency rate was terrible. So I think he was under 40% from the field. He shot from three. 6'10". He shot from three way too much. I mean, he's not a good chemistry type of guy. And he doesn't really I don't know the right word for it, but I would just say he's not one of those guys who's going to put his heart and soul in the game. And I don't think he loved FAU that much. I just got the sense from watching him at practice. And this is nothing against how he is as a player, just overall what I think about him. Now let's talk a little bit about how good we're going to be. I think we are going to be top 5 in the conference next year. I would say between 5th and 7th throughout the year. But I think at the end of the year, we're really going to be able to gel because, again, 4 new transfers, Forgot to even mention Josiah Parker, highest recruit in FAU history coming out of high school. He's going to be wanting to stay here for a bit because he chose FAU out of high school. Devin Vanderpool returns. Nicola Moretti, huge get from Illinois. He's returning. He loves FAU, and I think he's going to be huge from the perimeter. There were multiple games when he went 6 for 6 from three, and he's a guy who's going to bring perimeter scoring mostly from beyond the arc. I would say between 5th and 7th, we're not at a point where we can compete with North Texas or Memphis, the premier programs in the conference, because we are phasing through a whole stage with a new head coach, full new staff, and so many new international players. We have a lot of international players on the team. That means that we don't have a lot of information on these guys, so it's really hard to judge exactly how they're going to be. Let's talk about, is FIU a rival? Obviously, FAU's rival for a majority of the time that they were playing was FIU. The shoeable whole thing, yes. But we left FIU behind in the Conference USA, and we joined the American Conference. And that means we're not in the same conference. How can we still be the two biggest rivals? And when you play a team that you beat every single year, obviously FAU is dominant in the Shula Bowl, 16-4 in the last 20 games they've played. That means that it's not really a rival, in my opinion. I think these two teams, FIU wants it to be a rivalry, but we left them behind. And we want to have a rival who we're actually competing with. And that's where it comes into play. What is the criteria of a rivalry? Geographically close. You have to be within a few hours from each other, driving range, because if FAU and, let's say, UTSA were rivals, that wouldn't make sense because one's in Texas, one's in Florida. So you have to be geographically close. Every rivalry you look at is close. Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, Texas, Texas A&M, North Carolina State, South Carolina, Clemson. I could go on and on. They're all very close. They're either in the same state or bordering each other. So that's my criteria number one. My criteria number two is them to be on a similar level playing field. Michigan and Ohio State are always in the top 25. That's why it's the best rivalry in sports. Auburn's always making a bowl game. Alabama, they're Alabama. Best dynasty in college sports throughout the last few years. 15 years since 2007. So it goes back a while. And I know they're not the same as they were with Nick Saban, but still a dynasty right now. And then you have North Carolina State. They're similar. They win 6 to 8 games every year, maybe 5 to 8. You got Texas A&M. Both those teams same conference now. Oklahoma, Texas, same conference. They're all competitive. And they all are even within playing each other. Like, let's look at Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State had won 6 in a row until 2020. Now Michigan's won 4 in a row. So they, throughout the last few years, they're within each other. That's not FAU, FIU. FAU's in a different conference with more money, with more talent, more players, and FIU's not. And that's where it comes to me. Who is FAU's biggest rival? It's USF. And this is a perfect rivalry that I think that FAU has to transition to. USF's not rivaled anymore with UCF because UCF's in the Power 4. USF is not. And UCF just opened up a whole new rivalry for FAU. FAU and USF, they're 3 hours driving distance between each other. They're both in the same state. They're both in the same conference. They both are similar in terms of how they play each other. 2 years ago, FAU destroyed USF. I think it was like 62-14 or something on that score. And then last year, USF had a big win against FAU. So right now, they're 1-1 so far in the conference when they play each other. Yes, USF is having a very good year so far. But I think that FAU has to stop thinking of FIU as the biggest rival because until they beat us, they're not the number one rival. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed today's show. I hope you guys really were able to learn something new about FAU. I love the school. I love the program overall. And I want to spread information on it to you guys. That's why we do daily podcasts right here on Night Owls. Please, it would mean a lot if you guys subscribe, leave the like on the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm JJ Metz. See you in the next one.